Welcome to the Hollywood Raaw YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raaw podcast. My name is Adam Glyn. I am not with Dax Holt. We had a bad breakup, which sent him to Europe. No, Dax is on vacation. I am not. We try to do this podcast every week, even when it's difficult. You know, there's some weeks that I'm not there and Dax is not there, or Dax is around, I'm not around. But we try to kind of give you guys content every week. But, you know, it's funny. When I was doing, Dax was going away, we were talking about the episodes we're going to do during the week off. And I was like, Dax, I'm just going to figure something out. You got this big trip. He's in Spain. I said, don't even worry about it. Don't stress it, dude. I will figure out what to do. So for the past week, I was calling pretty much a lot of people. I wasn't calling everyone, but I was calling a good amount of people on my phone and say, hey, can you come on the podcast? And time wasn't working out. People are in the can where it is. There's this big media thing going on there. So I just couldn't find anybody. And then I was calling to a few celebrities, no one huge. And everyone was playing the game. And I was like, I just want someone to just jump on and just BS with me for a little bit. And some people said yes, but timing just didn't work out. And I said, you know what? There's one thing I do for an income that I it's weirdly enough, and I don't really talk about this. I've never really talked about this, but one day I was sitting outside the London hotel, was sitting on the ground on the street. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm sitting on the ground, and this guy comes up to me and goes, hey, man, what are you doing with a camera in your hand? And I told him what I did, and I was sort of out of it. And the guy's like, oh, and he started asking me a few questions. The guy was nice. I answered his questions. He goes, hey, would you want to have dinner at the Waverly Inn tonight? Now, if you're from New York, you know the Waverly Inn. If you're not from New York, it's a big celebrity spot, very hard reservation to get, very expensive restaurant. I said to the guy, you're going to the Waverly Inn. I said, all right, you know what? I'll take you up on that. I'll go to the Waverly Inn just because I can never afford that by myself. I can never go to the Waverly Inn. I would never treat myself to something like that. I'll go with you. And I went and I met this guy, and he was a big position at his company. I don't want to say the company because I don't want to out him. But I go meet him and his few colleagues, his work colleagues, and I wind up telling stories the entire night. And I'd start telling stories about my job and what I do. And the guy said, I find you very interesting. Can I pay you to kind of come out to events or dinners with us? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll take you up on a free dinner and get paid for it. And what I do, and I just did it last night, and it doesn't happen to me once a week. It happens to me a couple times a year that I get paid to go out to dinner with people to tell them stories. And they have a lot of questions. They're very curious about what I do in my life and my experiences. And I tell them all my stories, and I love doing it. I enjoy it so much because it's so fun, because they're so ridiculous and insane to me. And then when you get paid for it, I like it even more. Who wouldn't? So I figured on today's episode, I would kind of go through the celebrities that are in this week's news and kind of go through my experience with them, the good, the bad. And it's me trying something out. I don't know if you guys will like it. I don't know if you won't, but it's the summer. I hope you guys are enjoying your summer. And I figure, now is a good time to try an episode out with Dax is not around, and for me to kind of try something new. Because the only way you find out if something works is if you try it out. And I hope you guys like it. If not, let me know. But I'm going to kind of share you some of my experiences through celebrities in the news this week. Actually, today, I'm recording this on Tuesday. Today, I was listening to Howard Stern. I used to work for Howard Stern before we get into it. People don't know that. I used to work at the Howard Stern show. When I say work, I was an intern. And I used to have a close relationship with Artie Lang. Artie Lang, who's a comedian on the show, and I don't know if you know who he is, but if you do, great. But Artie was from the same hometown in New Jersey that I was. And Artie somehow through the grapevine, not even Artie even helped me out, but I got an internship at the Howard Stern show, and I was at K-Rock and went to Sirius with them. But the reason why I'm getting to the Stern show thing, I was listening to Howard Stern's interview with Kevin Costner today, and they had so much conversation about his relationship with Whitney Houston. And I found that, I realized people are always interested in your experiences with other celebrities. And that's why I figured I'm going to go with this direction with today's episode. But again, before we get into some of the celebrities of the week and my experiences with them, I want to talk about my experience with Howard Stern. Yeah, I worked with Howard Stern. I was at K-Rock with Howard and went to Sirius with him. And I remember my first day at Howard Stern, the first guest that I ever saw celebrity come in was Jon Stewart. And the thing I thought was so cool with Jon Stewart is you see at Jimmy Kimmel, you see at Letterman or Colbert, Letterman, Jimmy Fallon, when celebrities go on a show, they come in with big teams. They have their publicist, the makeup artist, the hair person, sometimes security. It's so many people in the entourage. It's sort of like kind of gross to me. It's sort of weird. Like there's no reason why someone should have that many people. But when Jon Stewart came in, he came in by himself. And I thought that was so cool. He just drove to the Stern Show for himself and just went in and did the Stern Show. He didn't have a publicist with him. He just understood it. But I worked at the Howard Stern Show for about a year, and it was an interesting experience. You know, I'm a huge Stern fan, and to see it from that experience, I didn't have much experience with Howard. My experience with Howard was once a week you had a writers meeting, and it was on Thursday afternoons right after the show, and I made sure to sit right up front. And every week, you know, the interns were allowed to pitch Howard ideas, but most of the interns never pitched anything. Actually, pretty much nobody did. And I always wanted to be the guy pitching something. I wanted to be the person every week to kind of pitch something. I wanted Howard to know who I was. And every time that I pitched something, Howard actually gave me his time. He got excited for the writers' meetings. He was like into the creativity, the funny of the show. And I got a few things on the show. I mean, I got like a biggest man boob contest. I wrote a lot of questions for the red carpet when you ask celebrities weird questions. But Howard kind of liked his guys. Like I think he liked ideas from his internal team rather from an intern. But again, I was a creative guy, but I got to meet all the celebrities. One of the coolest things I did was become friends with a lot of the whack packers, comedians on the shows like Beetlejuice. But one insane story I had from working at the Stern Show was Howard's last day at K-Rock. And I remember Howard was closing down the street on 56th Street. And they closed down, they had a stage, and Howard was going to go on stage, and Robin, there was thousands of people there. And I remember that morning was different. I would take the train from New Jersey to New York City every morning at 4 o'clock. And that morning at the 4 a.m. train, the train was packed and full of people. So full that I had to sit next to someone on the train. So I sit next to the people on the train. They wanted to be Stern fans. I tell them what they do. Like, oh my God, this is awesome. They asked me a lot about the Stern Show. I was happy to tell stories because I love telling stories, obviously. And, after we got off the train, the guy was like, hey, listen, can I pay for your taxi? Can we jump in a taxi all together and take us uptown to where the studio is, where they're doing the event, the Howard Stern event? I said, yeah, sure. Free taxi. I was dead broke at the time. Yeah, sure. Let's do it. The guy paid for my taxi, and I got him to there, said goodbye. But then that day, I remember they gave me $10,000, and they said, you need to give $1,000 to 10 different people at the parade, at this event. And I was like, that's a pretty awesome job. And what I did was I walked up and down this thousands of people and gave random people $1,000. And I ran into those guys on the street, and I gave them $1,000. And I remember they were like, what? This is just such an insane story, and how it, like, everything kind of turned around, came back to him. Again, this was pre-cell phone era. But, at the Stern Show, I got to kind of be around some really weird, insane things, a lot of the whack packer stuff. Unfortunately, I did not get a job there, and that actually crushed me because I worked so hard to get a job there, and other people did get jobs. And I don't know. I still have some conspiracies or thoughts in my head why I didn't get the job, but it was really sad because I was good at what I did. I still have a relationship with Benji and Gary and all those guys, and Sound Richard. When I see those guys, they're all good people, but I was really hurt that I did not get a job, and I struggled to get a job for a long time until TMZ, which I fell into. But again, this is me just rambling if you guys are listening to today's podcast, but I wanted to get into, again, what I get paid for, because this is one of my incomes. I have a few incomes. One of them is the podcast. It's probably my least amount of money I make, but I make income I make money from doing stand-up comedy. I make money from my celebrity interviews that I place in different media outlets. I get paid to consult for a few news sites. And then also I do a few PR things. But one of the things I also do is get paid, one of the things I do is get paid to go to dinner with people and tell them my celebrity stories. So the people I picked out are people that are in the news this week, and I forgot to tell you about my experience with them. And my first one on the list is Justin Timberlake. Obviously, if you heard, Justin Timberlake got a DUI this week. He said he had a martini and drove, but we'll figure out. I mean, there's Fortunately, he did not hurt anybody. It was a dumb mistake on his behalf, but we'll hear more about it. People keep working on the story. They're trying to find the footage of him driving. They're trying to find out how much he exactly drank. He refused a DUI. But my experience with Justin Timberlake has not been the best. He's never and again, this is just my experience with these people. I remember the first time I saw Justin Timberlake, he lived in Tribeca, and he was living in Tribeca. It was a Sunday night. He was eating dinner at a restaurant with a friend. And all of a sudden, I had the tip. I saw him through the window that he was eating there. Obviously, I was working for a company at the time. For my job, I had to try to put these people on camera. That's how I got paid, and I'm just trying to eat. And this was, 13 years ago. I remember Justin leaves the restaurant, and he starts to walk on his cell phone, and he's on this phone. And at first, I let him walk a little bit because I didn't want to bother him when he was on his phone. And did I follow him? I followed him, not necessarily, but it was more about timing when to put the camera on him. He was on the phone as soon as he got out of the restaurant. I didn't want to put the camera on him while he was on the phone. And then he stayed on the phone, and I noticed he was getting closer to his apartment. I wanted to get him closer on camera before he got to his apartment, so I didn't have his apartment on video. And finally, he wasn't getting off the phone. He's getting closer to his apartment. I ran up and tried to shoot him. And he goes, "Hey, man, I don't do this stuff. I don't do this stuff." And I was like, "All right, no problem. No worries, man." And honestly, I tried to talk to him. The video might have been 7 seconds. And as I tried to get him to talk to me, engage with me, Justin Timberlake said, "I don't do this stuff. I don't do this stuff." And I said, "No worries, dude. Have a good day." I put the camera down. And as he walked by me, he goes, "And stop hanging outside my house." And I go, "Hey, Justin." And he turned around. I said, "Hey, man, here's what happened. Here's the deal. Here's what I work for. This was my strategy of doing it. I didn't want to get you when you were first on your phone. I didn't want to shoot in your apartment. I don't hang out in front of your apartment. In fact, if you're wondering where people hang out, paparazzi, in front of your apartment, they usually hang out here, here, here." I sort of ratted on the other paparazzi. I'm a fan. I just want to, obviously I'm just, and he actually calmed down. He was actually sort of nice. He said, "Hey, man, I appreciate it." It was very quick. And he was like, "Hey, man, I get it. Have a good night. Thanks so much." Like he understood I was trying to do a job. I think he understood that I was coming from a good place. Cause again, I tried to talk to him off camera saying, "Hey, I apologize. I didn't, obviously I'm just trying to work," but he was very cool. I remember years later, I ran into him walking in Soho, and he's with a friend, and I go, "Whoa, Justin Timberlake." I was like, "Listen, I'm a huge fan." And trust me, he did not remember who I was, and I don't expect him to remember who I am. I said, "Justin, I'm a huge fan. I'm never going to get this opportunity again. I just want to let you know how much you're a big part of my generation, from my music, like the music I grew up on. You're the music I grew up on. And can I please just get a photo to remember this moment of me running into you?" And he goes, "All right, yeah, okay, I'll take a photo with you." He takes a photo with me, and then he was very like standoffish. I mean, listen, he was nice that he took the photo with me. I think he wanted to give me my 5 seconds and then not keep it going too long. He was with a friend. So do I give Justin Timberlake an A rating? No. Do I give him a B rating? Yeah, I'd give him a B rating. He doesn't seem like a bad guy. He's a guy who probably gets bombarded all the time. He was cordial to me. I had a conversation off camera. He was cool enough that he took a photo with me. I do find him to be an A-list star. I give him a B rating. Another person that was in New York this week, she's been going through some health issues, is Celine Dion. Celine Dion is one of those people I never thought I would ever run into. She was one of those celebrities, I'm never going to see her ever. And then the first time I saw her, I was like, whoa, that's Celine Dion. And I was intimidated. I was intimidated by who she is. Somehow looking at her, I just thought that she would not be the warmest of people, Celine Dion. I just thought, yeah, she's not going to like me. I don't think she's into this. And boy, was I wrong. Celine Dion, one of the nicest stars out there, one of the most grateful, gracious, coolest celebrities to fans, to the paparazzi, to the media, to security, to everyone. And I don't know. I wouldn't expect that from Celine Dion. For some reason, I expected a complete opposite. But she gets the business. She was so nice. And she was in New York this week doing media for her new documentary. And yeah, I couldn't believe how nice Celine Dion was. In fact, I saw some videos this week. She started to sign autographs for fans at the beginning. She was staying at a hotel, and there's these professional autographers. And the first, few times in and out of the hotel, she signs autographs for the autographers, professional ones. But then eventually word got out, and the professional autographers were hanging out there all day and night. And anytime she goes in and out, they're waiting more and more autographs. And it's a business to these people. So what she would do is she would walk out, she would say, "Hey guys," and wave to them, let them take a photo of her. Say, "Hey guys, I'm not going to sign, but I do appreciate you guys coming." She'd let them know, "Hey, I appreciate you guys coming out." Then she would stop and turn around to the other side, the paparazzi. "Hey, here's your photo. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for being respectful. Thank you for being so nice. Thank you for," she just thanked them for them being cool. And what does that do? That makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. It gives people a good impression, but also what happens with paparazzi, they don't chase after her anymore because they got the photo they needed. She stopped and posed for them. They got the photo they wanted. She left them with a few kind words, said to the fans, "Hey, I'm not going to sign anymore." And she got to kind of enjoy her New York experience as much as possible for as far as I know. So Celine Dion, who's in the news this week, I'd give her an A rating. Just she's very fair and she's very cool. Is she going to do a podcast with me on the street? No. But she'll talk to me on the street in the right circumstance. It's just harder now because there's so many of these fans. When I say fans, they're professional fans. They make money on their autographs and they're getting paid by other people that it's getting harder to do what I do. There's less paparazzi these days and more of these autographers on the streets these days. They're actually making more than the paparazzi. It's just the way the industry is going. In fact, that's why you've seen in the news lately about these autographers being really aggressive because these guys want to make their money. And the autographers are more aggressive than the paparazzi these days. Who knew? All right. Next on the list is Ben and J-Lo, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. Here's what my thoughts on my experience with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez. When you look at Ben Affleck and you see the videos of him either drinking a coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, having a cigarette, walking, Ben Affleck looks like there's one guy who's always sighing. You know what I mean? He feels like a guy who's always going, and what you see in Ben Affleck in those videos on the street, walking around with J-Lo, that's how he is in real life. And he's not a dick. Actually, he's actually sort of nice. He's like a cool guy, but he's just always like, and I get it. Like, it's a lot with Jennifer Lopez and the way she kind of does her thing because, the paparazzi don't really care about Ben without J-Lo, except now because it's such a news story to see, is Ben wearing a ring? Is he not wearing a ring? Is Jen wearing a ring? Is Jennifer Lopez not wearing a ring? But Ben Affleck is the same guy in person as you see in those little videos on TMZ and Daily Mail. Jennifer Lopez, she's a star. She's a professional. She gets it. She's a hustler. And Jennifer is cool. She's chill. I mean, is she like one of those people like Michael Bublé who's going to sing with you on the street? No. But she's a professional. She gets it. She understands she's a star. And she's not going to hide from doing what she wants to do because she's Jennifer Lopez. Will she take a photo with you on the street? In the right circumstance, she'll take a photo with you on the street. I've got photos with Ben Affleck on the street. I actually don't have a photo with J-Lo. I just never asked her either. I've interviewed her once on the street, and she was actually very cool because I asked her the right question, which kind of got her fun because she realized it was a fun thing. Right now, she probably would not talk to me regarding all the stories going on between her and Ben and getting divorced. I mean, who knows what's true and what's not. What I think they do like is what Jennifer likes is people talking about her. I think a lot of that stirred from when she had a movie coming out. She's trying to promote a movie, so she didn't mind that conversation. Is she going to be staying in a marriage with Ben Affleck? But so I'd give Ben Affleck a B-. I give Jennifer Lopez a B+. She's nice. She's nice enough. She's not going to do cartwheels for you, but my next is Joe Biden. I know Joe Biden's not one of our real celebrities, but he was in the news this week for some stuff. And what I'll do is I'll talk about my experience with Joe Biden. There's none. Joe Biden, I've never met. I've never seen. So I've never had experience with him. I did have an experience with his son, Hunter. And the way Hunter rode around, so much security in New York City, but he was like nice-ish. Like he was not going to stop and talk to me. And he understood what I did. Rolls around with a lot of security. They're very on guard with him. But my experience with presidents, Donald Trump, I've had some good experiences. I had one really, really bad experience with Donald Trump. I had to go to his office one day and he'd say a few lines. He'd say, "I own that. I also own that." I was working for a company at the time, wink, and he had to say a few lines on camera because they were working on a project. And I had a meeting with him at 11:30. I got there 11 just to be safe. And I had all this equipment with me. 11:30 on the dot, the secretary comes down and says, "Hey, Mr. Trump's ready for you." I go in his office and I was like kind of smiling, like, "Hey, how you doing?" And he was just like, "All right, what am I doing?" I'm like, "Oh, he wanted to go right. He wanted to bang it out really quick." I say, "You're going to say these 5 lines." He goes, "All right, hurry up. And I put the microphone. He's like, "Hurry up. Let's go. I quickly put the microphone on him and he said each line. He goes, "What's the line?" You have to say, "I own that." And he goes, "I own that. What's the next line?" He said each line once and he's like, "Thank you, goodbye." He takes the microphone off and like throws it at me, but gives it to me and says, "All right, see you later. Bye-bye." And like hurries me up out of his office. But then I realized as I'm walking out of his office, I forgot to turn the microphone on. So I run over to the secretary. I go, "Listen, Donald was playing with the microphone. The batteries came out. He's got to do it again." She goes, "Listen, he's busy all day. He's not going to record these lines again." I go, "Listen, if he doesn't do this, I lose my job." She goes, "Okay, I'll see what I do." She comes back 10 minutes later. She goes, "Listen, he'll see you in 10 minutes, but he's not happy." And I go into his office 10 minutes later, and then he goes, "I can't believe you screwed this up. If you worked for me, I fire you. You should be ashamed of yourself." And he's like screaming at me. And I go, "Sorry, Mr. Trump. Sorry, Mr." I acted like I was scared. Like I started shaking my hands. And I want him to know that he got to me. And I was just like, want him to do it. I want him to think I was intimidated by him. And he did each line once and basically shooed me out of his office. So that day he was a dick. Other times, I saw him last summer on the golf course. And honestly, he was very nice to me. Politically, am I a Trump guy? I'm not a Biden guy. I'm not a Trump guy. I just don't care enough. It's not a political show, but he was nice to me on the golf course, and we had a really good conversation. Nothing about politics. We just talked golf, and I couldn't believe I was talking to a president. Say what you want about him about golf, and it was such like the conversation was so fluid. I felt like I was talking to one of my friends. It was just a weird, random conversation. I've never met Obama. In fact, when Obama rolls around, Obama it's so weird. You could get close to Bill Clinton. You get close to Jimmy Carter. You could get almost close to Donald Trump, depending on where you see him. But you can't get close to Obama. And from what I've heard, Obama doesn't sign autographs. He doesn't take selfies with people. He's just not that guy. He doesn't welcome it, which I'm surprised. Bill Clinton, nice guy. And actually, what they say of Bill Clinton is if you see him, kind of put yourself in a position, not in front of him, but sort of off to the side, have your cell phone ready, and he'll kind of walk over to you and take a selfie with you. He's very nice like that. He gets it. George W. Bush, I used to be friends with his daughter. I used to have a crush on her, to be honest with you, Barbara, not Jenna. And I used to always like kind of do video on her and stuff like that. And she was kind of cool. Then one day, George W. Bush is driving through Manhattan. I saw him and he made a face at me, like a funny face. He made a silly face at me and I took a photo with him and me and George W. Bush, which was kind of cool. But I never met him. I'd love to meet George W. I met Jimmy Carter, actually very nice guy. Jimmy Carter was one night. In fact, when Jimmy Carter travels, he flies commercial, which is not surprising. But what he does is when he gets on a flight, he shakes everyone's hand on the plane. He goes up and down the aisles and shakes everyone's hand, which I thought was really cool. But I've interviewed Jimmy Carter a few times. Very nice guy. But that's the only presidents I've met. On to Post Malone. Post Malone and Steve-O. If you saw Post Malone put a penis tattoo on Steve-O. Post Malone, one of the coolest dudes. He's hard to get to, but when you get to him, he's like a nice guy. Always calls you sir. He'll give you what you want. You want a photo? Sure. You want a hug? Sure. Like he's very good to his fans. In fact, his security doesn't even get involved. They back to the side. They walk with him. They don't walk in front of him. They don't push it back. They're just there. Post kind of run. He's so calm and loving and endearing that people kind of respond to him calmly and nicely. They don't get too aggressive or crazy in his face. Super nice guy. The guy parties till late at night. He does go out. Actually, one night I saw him at a bar with Jimmy Fallon, and it was an Irish pub, and it was dead, and they're drinking pretty hard, and they were just, people want to party with Post Malone, but one of the nicest guys, has big security with him, but the security is so chill and calm because they know that Post welcomes it, and he's an enigma. He's just so cool, and I understand why other celebrities like him, want to work with him, because he's like a chameleon. He adapts to the room and makes people feel good. The other one was Steve-O. Steve-O I met once, nice guy, interviewed him once at a comedy club. We tried to get him on the podcast, and we couldn't come on. I was like, Steve-O, really? Thought we were doing you a favor, but anyway. Gisele Bundchen's in the news because she's back with she's still with the guy the trainer, the karate teacher that she's been with ever since Tom Brady. Gisele Bundchen acts like you don't exist. As a paparazzi, you could be shooting her and you could be right next to me, and I'll try to talk to her. And she's tall, she's beautiful. When the way she walks, you're looking at an avatar. You would not even know that she's real. Like you could be like, "Hey, what's going on, Giselle? I want to ask you about this." And she just keeps walking, and it acts like you don't even belong. The only other person that works like someone like that is Jessica Alba. Jessica Alba, the same thing. She'll live her life. You could be shooting her. She won't even look at you. She won't even. I could try to talk to her. She won't even address you. So that's my experience with them. Angelina from Jersey Shore is in the news because she got arrested recently. I'm gonna be honest with you. Angelina was probably the first celebrity that I became close to while doing this industry. I met her in Long Island at a music festival. Obviously, she was on the biggest show out there. She was the first celebrity whose phone number I got. Angelina, I've had a relationship with for a long time now. She's insane. She's nuts. But I even tried to get her on the podcast this week, and she didn't respond. But yet again, then she'll text me at like midnight and say something random or want to do something. It's just very weird. Angelina hits me up like 2 weeks ago. Actually, Angelina hits me up 2 weeks ago. She wanted to do a bad story about one of the other. She had some tea and dirt that she wanted to put out there, but one of the cast members. And I was like in bed. I was like, "Hey, I'll hit you up in the morning." And then the next day I hit her up and she goes radio silent. So you can't figure her out. I partied with her. She's very nice. She's very, when I say nice, I'm going to take it back. She's nice. She's insane. And I think she'll let you know that she's insane. However, she's very, like normal. Like she doesn't think of herself as a star. But I mean, I've known her since she used to be doing EMT work. So she's just an insane person. Jake Gyllenhaal is in the news. Well, he's not. I just saw photos of him in Daily Mail walking with his girlfriend. Jake Gyllenhaal is a very, very weird guy. He hates the paparazzi. I personally, I want to know what he does to keep his, like, stay looking handsome and keep his hair brown. I've said that before to Dax, and he made fun of me, but I'm like, no, I want to know what longevity pill this guy's on. But Jake Gyllenhaal, one day, this is how he must have watched TMZ or did something. Because one day he was coming out of the Warner Brothers building, and I don't know what he was doing there. And he's walking down the street, and I go, "Hey, Jake, any chance I get a quick photo with you?" He goes, "I'm not taking a photo with you, you paparazzi." And he laughed and kept walking. And I'm like, how did he know that's what I do? And, I was blown away that he knew what I was. And recently, I saw him going into a sneaker store with Conor McGregor. They were doing some sort of press for Roadhouse. It was me and two other guys. And it was just three of us. Camera wasn't even out. It was three of us. And the two guys asked Jake, and it was on a dead street in New York City, like, "Hey, Jake, can we get a photo with you?" And I was like, "Hey, guys." And he just walked into the store. He just ignored the guys on this dead street, empty street, and just didn't want to take a photo with the two fans. That's when he was promoting Roadhouse. Scooter Braun is in the news because he's no longer a manager. Scooter is actually I've heard a lot of stories. And if you're a Swiftie, I'm sure you hate Scooter Braun because he bought the music catalog that Taylor Swift had. And I know I can understand their beef with him. From my personal experience with Scooter Braun, my first time I met him, Scooter briefly managed Kanye West. And Scooter was outside Nobu in Manhattan. I saw him, and I tried to film Scooter and talk to him. He goes, "Hey, man, I don't do that stuff. I don't talk to him." I was like, "All right, man, no worries." And I put the camera down. He goes, "Hey, man, what's your name?" I said, "Adam." He goes, "Who you work with?" I told him the company I was working with. He goes, "You know what? I'm going to call your boss and let them know you're doing a good job. How's that?" I was like, "You're really doing it?" And he called my boss. He knew my boss, and he called him and said, "Hey, man, I just want to let you know, Adam's a good guy. You got a good guy here, and you should be really happy because he's working hard, and he's a cool person." And I was like, you know what? That was so nice it's so different, unique, and just, even though I didn't get the interview, didn't get the shot, he was like, "Hey, I understand what you do." He understood the business and gave me that, and it was really nice. And I saw him a few other times, and he's always been very cool, actually, and also insanely connected. Insanely. I mean, last time I saw him was in LA, and he was with Jeff Bezos. I mean, that's the people he deals with. He knows the guy worked hard. He's self-made in a way, so you got to respect Scooter Braun. Jerry Seinfeld in the news because he's being heckled at his comedy shows about Palestine. One of my biggest videos ever was with Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry Seinfeld used to go to the Brooklyn Diner every day. And he'd go to the Brooklyn Diner every day. Not every day, sorry. He would go there once a week, once every other week. And he would eat breakfast at the same window with comedian Colin Quinn from Saturday Night Live. And they would sit at the window and eat. And one day, a celebrity TV host, I'll say that, hits me up and says, "Hey, Seinfeld's eating at the window. You should go get him. And I ran over to Seinfeld. I see him eating at the window. And as soon as Jerry gets off, I start to put my camera on Jerry. And I go, hey, Jerry, how you doing? I mean, listen, man, you ride your bike in Manhattan. And he's like sort of annoyed by me. He starts to ask me questions. And he starts to like mess with me. And if you Google Jerry Seinfeld bike, paparazzi, and the company I used to work for, you might see the video. And Jerry starts to say like, be like almost like an asshole to me. I mean, he was being a wise ass to me. And he goes, what do you think? I do nothing? Because I asked him about Porsches. I asked him what the best Porsche is. And he goes, what do you think? Sit around and do nothing all day? And I said, Jerry, no, it's hard to do nothing. Because once you start doing something, then you're not doing nothing. So it's hard to do nothing. And that was his joke, an old stand-up bit from his. And he goes, I see what you did there. And then I started to BS with him. And then, it was a funny video because it became uncomfortable. But then I started to kind of go off at him. And it was just kind of a unique video. And people try to come at me like Jerry Seinfeld got you. And I was like, no, he didn't. I actually got to him. Like this was like a great video where I actually kind of made him not look like an asshole. And it just became sort of unique and weird. But then all of a sudden, a few years ago, a friend of mine hits me up and has this benefit. Jerry Seinfeld's wife was putting together a charity thing at this carnival. And I go to this carnival and they had rides and stuff. The carnival was shut down just for this charity. And I get there and I see his wife there, and there's no guys there. It's all women and kids and Jerry. And Jerry's just walking around because he had nobody to talk to. And I went over to him and started talking to him. And I didn't tell him what I did, but I just started BSing with him because we're the only two guys there. And we had a good conversation about baseball in New York and stuff like that. And at the end of it, after like 45 minutes with him, I said, hey, can I get a quick photo with you? And he was nice, took a photo with me. But I see Jerry Seinfeld occasionally around Manhattan. He pops into comedy clubs. Actually, pops in at one specific comedy club in the city, Gotham Comedy Club. And I'll give Jerry Seinfeld the B rating. I didn't rate everyone, but Jerry Seinfeld's a B rating because he doesn't really take photos with fans, and it depends on the situation, but he will sign autographs, usually one each, and he's got a great signature. And I got a Jerry Seinfeld autograph. And it's cool because Seinfeld to me is a classic show. Let's do two other people who are in the news this week. Caitlin Clark. Now, I have not officially met Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA player. She's the star. She was a star from Iowa. She's getting a lot of attention, a lot of media attention. Caitlin Clark is very, very popular in women's sports right now. In all sports, she's insanely popular. And I have not officially met her, but I've seen her. And I have to say, I was very disappointed. For someone who's trying to lift the sport, someone who's possibly the face of women's basketball, I have not seen her stop for fans, sign autographs, take photos with people. And Shaq once told me, who's so good with fans, he said it takes more energy to be cool to fans than be a dick to fans. And it's sort of disappointing from my experience with seeing Caitlin Clark. Now, she's not obligated. She doesn't have to take photos with people, or she doesn't have to take photos with people. She doesn't have to sign autographs. But personally, I think it would go so far if she just took a little bit of time and took selfies with fans. Now, you see a little bit on ESPN every now and then that she stops for a fan and takes the photos. But, I remember seeing her outside Saturday Night Live when she did a drop-in during the Weekend Update. And she could have stopped in and took photos with fans, and she basically ignored the fans there. And she was waiting for a car. And there's people waiting to say hi. Go over and take a selfie. Go over and sign an autograph. Yes, I mean, it takes no effort, really. And you'll feel so good about yourself, and you'll make fans by doing that. And it was really disappointing. I thought she'd be so cool, but, I don't know if ego has gotten to her head. And to be honest with you, I've seen that a lot with female athletes. A lot of the women's soccer players, I've noticed not be really great to the fans. And I'm like, man, here's your chance to make new fans, or make someone a fan for life. And your ego is so high that you feel like you're above that. And the one female athlete that was so good, or used to be so good to the fans, was Ronda Rousey. She used to be so good to the fans. And what happened is people made her into a WWE star. They followed UFC. They and brought in a lot of ratings to the sport. And I just hope that Caitlin Clark is actually taking the time for the fans out there, because from my experiences, I have not seen her be nice to people on the street. Now, again, these are all my personal experiences with them. Maybe other people have better experiences with them. And please leave us a message on our private Facebook group called Off the Record if you met some of these celebrities and had a great experience with them or didn't have a great experience with them. But I can only share about my experience with them. And like I said, people like ask me to come out with them. Believe it or not, guys, people actually like to hear my stories. Last one, someone who's in the news this week and was last experience I'll share with someone who's in the news this week is Armie Hammer. Armie Hammer is in the news this week because he did a podcast interview it's the first interview from all the crazy stories about his fantasies of cannibalism. People are very curious about it, and he said in the news that he was very grateful that everything happened because it helped find out that he had depression and kind of deal with those symptoms. But from my experiences with Armie Hammer, first, I only met him once, and it was actually before the Met Gala. And he came out with his wife from the Mandarin Oriental Hotel, and I was like, man, these two people are good-looking people. His ex-wife was beautiful, and when you see him, he was a tall, big guy. I was like, this is a beautiful couple. And honestly, he was very nice. He was very cool. And I think we were just shocked. Me personally, I was shocked when all the stuff came out about him, especially the cannibalism stuff, which is sort of like a fantasy weird thing. We still don't even know what was going on there because he was so nice. He was nice to the fans. He was nice to the paparazzi. He was nice to the professional autographers. He was a very cool guy. He was out and about. Who knew that he was personally suffering on the inside? But before, Armie Hammer was a nice guy. I haven't seen Armie Hammer since everything went down. I'll be curious how he is to the paparazzi, to the fans now. But before, one of the nicest dudes. Guys, Dax is going to be coming back soon from Spain. This was me just trying out a random episode. It might have worked, it might not. But again, I was just going to share you something I do on the side. And I was like, just rant with you and ramble with you. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. If not, Dax is coming back and we'll just BS like we usually do. I could have had a guest on, and I was struggling to find a guest. If I tried a little harder, could have found the guest. But I said, you know what? I'm going to try something this week. And we'll see how it goes. Am I going to be doing this every week? No. Am I doing my vlog type content? No. Dax will be back from Spain. And I hope you guys enjoying your summer. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, around it all. Follow our private Facebook group called Off the Record. You guys should be in it. Follow me at Adam Glyn. Follow Dax Holt, who's not here, but he's here with us in spirit. And I'll see you guys next week. Take care.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.